Welcome back to a day in the life of an asset manager and an underwriter. And we are pleased to have Cyndee with us today, who's going to talk to us a little bit about a case study. So take it away.
So I am very excited about this day in the life, and I know that we're recording it. So for those of you that don't get to watch it in real time, hopefully you'll catch it on our YouTube channel under The Asset Manager. Also, it's on our website, which is highcalibermultifamily.com. So one of the things that we want to talk about is we always want to be relevant, like what's happening. So when we're talking about these things that are going on, it's important for us that we are in real time. And actually, this is kind of a big one. We were in Tyler, Texas, is where we have our property. We had been there for a week. And part of the reason that we were there was that we had hit a deadline that we had set when we purchased the property. Now, I have been accused of telling a story within a story. And guess what? Today, you actually get that. You get the story because you need to know the backstory and why this is so important. So, we bought this property in May 1st, April 30th of last year. So, we've really owned it right at a year. And we are really diligent when we do our underwriting, which is one of the reasons why Tyler will sometimes take over everything and talk about underwriting. And we don't like to retrade. And I know that's something that they talk about is retrading, where you go in and renegotiate your price is actually what a retrade is. We do not like to do that. We like to do all of our due diligence fiscally, meaning with the financials, and offer what we consider the very best price that we can offer for the property. And so that's what we did on this property. But when we did our physical due diligence, when we actually went to the property, and this is after we're under contract, so we've gotten the contract and now we're going to go to the property, and we're going to physically walk it. And we discovered that they had not um, declared in the contract the status of the lift station. Now, I don't know about you, but I had no idea what a lift station was. I thought it was an elevator, and I'm thinking, why do we have an elevator? Most there were two stories. Why we need elevator? Well, that's not what a lift station is. The lift station, I'm going to explain it in the way that I understand it. Tyler, feel free to correct me if I misspeak because I don't want to do that. But basically, you have your city sewer, and that's, when people flush their toilets, do something in the sink, it goes into the city line. So the city line sat here, and our property sat here below the sewer line. So what a lift station does is it literally brings the sewage and up to the city line. And they had a broken lift station. It worked. Don't get me wrong. People didn't have sewage, but it had to be really it was not in compliance at all with the city. It was something that we had to monitor daily. Um, and what we did is we hired a company. Now we're on the property. We walk every unit. This is all part of our due diligence. We walk every unit. We look at the physical bank statements and all of the, leases. We do a lease audit. But while we were there for a week, we had a contractor come out and tell us how much is it going to cost us to build this contraption that's going to take our sewage up and then over. And I want to show you. I apologize for not having this out. This is the contract. Okay. So just to give you an idea, this is the contract, and it was a bid for $325,000. And so that's major. So we told the broker that we're happy to do that, but uh, we want a credit. We actually want a $500,000 credit because although this says 325,000, do we really know? And do they really know? Because the system that was in there was the original system. This was built. When was this built, Tyler? In the late 70s, early 80s?
1971.
1971. So that's how old it was. And it was brick. I mean, we could see everything that was going. And so it was a brick well. And so we said, we already had a bid for 325. And so we're like, you know what? We have got to make sure that we can cover this because we had a pretty hefty capex anyway. And so we went back to the seller and he said, no, I'm not changing the price. And so I told the broker, and this is where I want to help you guys. I really want to give you this encouragement. I told the broker, I said, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I cannot accept that until I can speak to the seller. Like, I want to have a conversation with the seller because you got to remember are paid on commission. And so $500,000 is a lot that he's not going to get commission on. And I just felt like I really, really needed to talk to the seller. And he agreed to it. He was very reluctant, but I didn't care because it's like, you're going to lose this deal over $500,000 when it was a multi-million dollar deal. So he said, okay. So I got on the phone with the seller. He lived in Park City, Utah. He was an anesthesiologist, and this was like his last property. He was getting ready to retire, do something different. Um, and he had had this property. He was the original owner. He had had it for a very long time, since 71. And honestly, it was his baby. I mean, I get it. It's so hard. It became emotional to him. And I just told him, I said, we have to redo this lift station. For one thing, we are not compliant with city code. And if the city was to come by, they could shut us down. And you need to know that. So I said, when was the last time that you were out at the property? And he could not even remember. And I said, has it been more than 5 years? And he was like, yeah. So I don't know that if he was even aware of how drastic the situation was, but I just said, I just want you to know that, we gave our very best price that we could give you. And unfortunately, we don't, we already have that built into our CapEx. We already knew the things that we wanted to do before we went and actually walked the property. But I said, this was not disclosed. You may not even have known. So I did give him an out, letting him know, like, you may not have known the situation and how dire it was, but I'm telling you now, you are not compliant and you could be shut down. And then you would have no tenants because they would have no water. They would cut everything off. So he reluctantly agreed, thankfully agreed, because uh, the minute that we took possession of the property, we got a hold of these people and said, okay, start building the lift station. And so we started the process. Now, if you can imagine, I mean, we had a huge, when you're driving down the interstate and the semi truck passes you with this huge Caterpillar yellow thing with the big old tires, we had those out there. I mean, they were digging holes. They were really having to we had to move it to a different space. Thankfully we had a really nice area that they could move it to that wasn't too far away. It's only about 6 feet away from the original, so there's not a whole lot of moving parts there. But they had to literally build a brand new lift station. So they had to order all the equipment, order all the parts, and part of the reason why we just left Tyler is because they had finished the lift station. So we've owned it for a year. and they began immediately, but it just takes time because they had to order the different parts. And we've had some hiccups along the way. So one of the things that happened is they got ready. It was the big day. They told us at 2 o'clock on this day, it was about 3 weeks ago, we're gonna actually convert to the new lift station. So all of us on the GP team committed to flushing our toilets in our houses to commemorate that the new lift station was starting at 2 p.m. that day. Guess what? It failed. And it had to do with a bracket. So there was some sort of bracket that needed to go around one of the pipes, and it wasn't right. I don't remember exactly. Probably doesn't matter what it was, but it wasn't the right size or the right seal or something. So, oh my gosh. So we had to go back and order another bracket, but it came in. So they said again, okay, we're going to start the lift station. And we didn't do any commemorative flushing this time, but it did go. However, while we were there this last week, and this is why it's so important to go to your properties, even when things are going smooth, because we have pretty smooth sailing at that property. Um, we had some sort of problem. And Tyler, I don't know what the problem was, but the one thing I do know is that the alarm on top of this gate, it's fenced in, the whole lift station is fenced in, but you can see there's right above the fence is the red light, and about 2 o'clock, this red light was going off, and there was a problem, and we did not get notified. When we came in, because we're at the property, when we came in that morning at like 8 o'clock, whenever we got to the property, they said, hey, there's a problem with the lift station. So we jumped into action and we literally had to have some sewer dump trucks, I guess, is what you would call them, where they would literally come out and pump the sewer out of our lift station because our well that the lift station would fill was getting too full. And there was a possibility of it backflowing into building number 6. So how many truckloads did we have? I think we had two, possibly three.
We had 3 full truckloads. Yeah, it was over 9,000 gallons that we had to pump out of there. The thing about the lift station is that, and this is understanding the severity of it, right? And something that the broker didn't fully understand, the seller didn't even fully understand, is that when your lift station goes down, you've got to start a stopwatch. Like you have a 6.5 hour time frame before it starts backing gray water into your apartment complex. And that is a huge problem. So yeah, as soon as we figured out, hey, this thing's not going, it's not running, we called sanitation companies immediately, and they pumped out 9,000 gallons so that we didn't have to have gray water in the apartments. It's very important to act quickly on that one.
When he says gray water, that's what they call it, but you know what? It's got everything in it. So,
I mean,
so they,
they're calling it dookie water, so
so what then? So now we're like, so now we have a new problem. Okay, the system failed. But we didn't find out until we got there at the property. We were able to figure out that it failed about 2 o'clock. When we got there, it was 8, so it had been 6 hours. And so we had two different companies like bring their trucks out and start pumping things out because at that point they had taken the lid off and we went out there and looked and we could see, it's like on any water thing, you can see the marks, and so we could see how close it was coming to the top of the lift station. And so now we have this problem of why didn't we get contacted? And okay, remember this contract? This is our contract, right? And so we're looking and we realize that the emergency contract or the way emergency contact, the way that they're supposed to contact us, was set up on the panel to be a landline. Now, Is there a phone out there? Is there a landline out there? No, it is at the back of the property. And so we're like, wait a minute. We know that we told them we needed to have it on a cellular because it's at the back of the property. There's no telephone out there. Well, now we go back to this. So now we have to prove our case, right? Because we paid $325,000 and we know that we told them we need a cell phone connection, not a landline connection. I don't know about you, but we did not have time to go through this to be able to say, hey, this is what's in the contract. Anyone want to guess what we did? Go ahead and unmute yourselves. You're fine. Take a guess.
I don't know, submit the contract through AI or something to help
Yes,
me find
ma'am.
that clause.
That's exactly what we did. Because
Nice.
we have it in PDF form in the computer, right? I just asked for a hard copy because I'm a paper person. But I didn't have time to look through that, and I didn't even have that contract with me. It was at my house, and I was in Tyler. So we dumped it into Claude, and we're like, hey, Claude, we need you to look through this and find where it says in the contract how we are to be contacted in the case of a failure of the system. Guess what? It said cellular. So we had to provide a cellular line, which was not a problem. But now they have to go in and, redo that one little panel so that now it's not a landline, it's a cell line. But that could have been a huge problem, and it could have been something that, we were kind of unclear on. Although we knew, like in our heads, that we told them that we needed a cellular, proving it would have taken quite a while trying to get through the contract. But using AI, we were able to absolutely, tell them the page and everything where it is, where we had agreed that they were going to be able to do that with a cellular. The other thing that we found out was they were responsible because of the failure. So the sewage companies that we had come out, those bills are now their responsibility. They're not ours, which is good too, because we thought we were going to have to pay. And I'm going to say they immediately had someone out there that definitely, like, was right there helping us take care of it, resetting everything. But at the same time, we really avoided a disaster. It could have been very, very bad. And part of it, I just wanted to let you know, there's a couple takeaways on this. So I'm just going to recap it for a few minutes and then let Tyler add anything he wants to add is don't be afraid to push back on the broker and ask to talk to the seller. Seriously, because that seller had not been out there. And that's how we were able to renegotiate what we did. And what if we hadn't have? And thankfully it did come in around 325. We're still, I think we have a couple of, because we agreed to pay some labor. So if at most we might have gone 10% over, which would be 32,000, we did not go 10% over on that. I know that for sure. We might have gone maybe 5,000 over of their contract. So don't be afraid to tell the broker, I need to talk to the seller. And I mean, person to person. It wasn't like it was a power trip or anything like that. It was just like, hey, listen, we want to buy this, but we have to take care of this. And, we can send him video, whatever, if he wanted to fly out to the property, whatever he wanted to do, we were willing to accommodate that so that he could understand. And we just were not willing to accept the broker telling us, oh, he won't do that. So don't be afraid to ask to talk to the seller. But I do want to um, tell you to honor the chain of command. So I would not ever go directly to the seller. I would always talk with the broker and tell the broker, hey, I need to talk to the seller. Now, if the broker had not facilitated that, I would have gone to his boss because the part of his reason is he was going to lose commission on $500,000. And that's a lot of money to them. I mean, that's a lot of money to anybody. And so I would have gone to his boss and said, listen, I need to talk to the seller. I don't think the seller's aware of the situation. It really is dire and they are not compliant and they really could be shut down. So don't be afraid to push back on that. But do honor the chain of command. Talk to the broker. If he won't do it, go to his boss. But I would never contact a director, a seller directly. The other thing is use AI. Seriously, you want to use AI. We use it now on all of the contracts that we do. Our laundry contract, cable, any contract we have, we put it through AI. And we use Claude. No, I'm not paid by Claude, so there's no compensation for me telling you this, but we use Claude and we have found it to be very, very helpful and very successful. And one of the things that we will ask Claude when we're done asking all the questions that we want to ask is there anything I haven't asked you to look for? So don't be afraid to ask Claude to tell you is there something I have overlooked? Because you have to remember it works within parameters. That's why we have picked Claude. And so we ask it, is there anything else that I should ask you? So that's really important too. And then go to your properties. You have to go. This was my fourth trip to this property, and we've had it for a year. Sometimes we go a little bit less than that, but we at least try to go every 6 months to the property to make sure, everything that is getting done is actually happening. Now we meet with our property management every week for the first year. That's part of when we hire a property management company. We tell them, we would like to meet with you every week. What you have to remember is that they are only going to tell you what you ask. So you have to ask better questions. And so that's one of the things that we probably will do in a day in a life. We'll go over an agenda and just talk about how we work through that agenda and how that process works. But that is for another day. But so those things that's what I want you to take away from this is could have been a disaster. We avoided the disaster by immediately taking action because it took a long time to get all those trucks ordered and they had to, get the actual lift station built, somewhere else and then dig the hole and put it in. And it was a process. It was a year. Thankfully, we did not have any problems during that year, but truly, truly, we were not compliant. And, the city really could have fined us or done who knows what. Thankfully, we'll never know. All right, Tyler, you can add I won't say 2 cents, you can add your 25 cents because he was there with me for a week.
Yeah, honestly, I just have two things to add. The first part is people talk about building a team around you. Make sure that you have a good team. And a big part of that team is we had somebody on our team that knew what a lift station was. And I'm not even kidding. We're in due diligence, okay? We already have like an accepted LOI. We're going through the motions for a signed PSA. We're 3 days out of the 5 into this due diligence process. And he comes up to us and says, hey guys, we have a huge problem. Do you have any idea what a lift station is? Because there's one back there. And we're like, nope. What the hell is a lift station?
Thought it was an elevator.
Yeah. And he was like, well, let me explain to you what it does and how important it is. And here's the issues that I'm seeing with it just from my limited knowledge of a lift station. So having a diversity of experience on your team is super important, right? If you have a bunch of people that only do underwriting and they go do due diligence, you're going to miss a lot. If you only have an underwriter and an asset manager do due diligence, they're going to miss something, right? So there's a lot that you can do in order to build your team out and have that diversity. And on this one, we even had paid a commercial inspector to come out and look at the property. And that is something that is part of our SOP now. Moving forward is when we do a due diligence, we hire a commercial inspector. They write a commercial inspector report, and we hand that to the seller.
And
The
what's
other
an
part,
SOP?
standard operating procedure,
Yes.
something that we do every single time. Why you have SOPs? I'm gonna go on a tirade for a second. Okay, you ready for this? If you want to talk about some of the most successful businesses that have ever existed, one of those is Chick-fil-A. Okay, Chick-fil-A is hyper successful because of its SOPs. It does not matter what Chick-fil-A you go to, you get the exact same predictable business experience every single time. You know what they're going to say. You know how they're going to say it. You know that that drive-through is 3 miles long and it's going to take you about four or 5 minutes, right? Like you know those things because they have a really solid SOP. They have an operating procedure that they follow every single time. So we at High Caliber have been building out our own SOPs. We want an extremely predictable business experience as much as you can in multifamily, right? You build the structure and then you work around the structure when you have stuff that doesn't really fit into what you're trying to do. So that's my tirade on that one. But yeah, we build your team out, add people to your team. That's why GP members are important. And it's not important just to get all capital raisers so that you can go get that money. You need a diversity of thought on your team. Number two is, Cyndee already said this, but it's something I've said probably, I don't know, 50 times, and I will continue to say it. The broker works for the seller, okay? I cannot tell you that enough. And as good of a relationship as you guys have, they have a better relationship because theirs is money. You don't get them money, right? Like anybody can go and buy that property and they'll make money. So the broker always works for the seller. And the reason that I reiterate this is the broker that we were working with, after 3 days of due diligence, okay, and all during the time that we were doing due diligence, he told us, this is crazy. You guys you shouldn't be looking at every single apartment. You should look at 10% of the apartments, rate them 1 through 10, and give them a score, and that'll average it out, and you'll kind of figure out what you want to do. And we're like, cool. We want a pool inspector to come out and look at the pool. And he's like, that's crazy. You don't need a pool inspector. They've had this pool since 1971. It's been operational every single year. No one's ever going to look at this. We're like, okay, we're having a commercial inspector come out. And he's like, this is a waste of money. You'll never have to do this. You're even assuming the loan on this property. So the bank isn't even going to come and look at you. The bank isn't even going to come look at you and have like an inspector list that they need to go do. And we still did it all, right? Because we need to. This is part of our SOP. And just so that you are aware, okay, it's fantastic that we inspected every apartment because we found some major issues in a couple different apartments, one of which being a tub that somebody had punched through not just the tub, but the subfloor, and they were still showering in that tub. So that water from their bath is literally just dumping onto the ground and going to cause massive mold and issues. So stuff like that we found, okay, in every apartment. The loan, okay, we're assuming this loan. He said, you're not going to have even a loan inspection. We had 3. Arbor, the loan that we assumed, came out 3 different times, gave us 3 different lists of 3 different things that we had to do in order to qualify for our loan. Okay? That's abnormal. Usually it's 1, maybe 2. Because sometimes the like Arbor wants you to look at it, and then Fannie Freddie wants you to look at it too. So sometimes there's 2, most of the time there's 1, never 3.
Never
Arbor
3.
did 3.
And he kept telling us, oh, they're not even going to come out and look at it. They did.
The lift station, okay, the broker told us, you guys are making a mountain out of a molehill. That lift station is perfectly safe. It's perfectly operational. Like there's no issues with it. You know what the commercial inspector said? Here's the 15 things that are wrong with this. And if the city of Tyler finds out that you're running it like this, they could evacuate the property. And it's like, oh, Well, that would be a huge problem because that is 100% vacancy and no cash flow, which would make it very difficult to be cash flow positive day one, which is a big thing that we look for. So I tell you all of this because that broker was very confident when he told us all of those things because he didn't care. He was going to make his nut and leave. So the broker always works for the seller. So those are my 2 points. Broker always works for the seller, and build your GP team with a huge diversity of thought and experience.
Thank you. I totally agree with all of that, Tyler. Uh, we knew that the broker was not forthcoming with us. We could just tell because Tyler walked units. Was it you or Lorik? Someone walked units with the broker,
I did, yeah.
and he would be like, because we have a checklist that you fill out. I mean, it's very easy. It has drop downs and but we say when we walk in there in the living room, is it carpet or is it vinyl? In the kitchen, what color are the appliances? What is are they really old appliances? Are they newer appliances? So we know every unit. When we purchase that, we know the status of every unit. And he was like, this is insane. You should just walk in and go 1, 2, 3. It's needs a lot of work, it's, medium, or it's in great condition. And it's like, no, that is not how we do it. And he was not happy that we were there for a week. But we had 152 units. It took us a week to go walk each one. We have to let the resident know that we're coming in. I mean, there's all these things that have to happen. And I would just tell you that when you are under contract and usually you have 30 days that you can come back and, say we need to change some things in the contract. It's either 30 to 45, kind of depending on how your PSA is written. You need to spend 5 days at that property. It is worth it. You want to see what's happening. We drove the property at night because if you're only there during the day, everything looks fine, right? But you need to drive it at night because you need to see, are the lights working on the buildings? Are there dark areas that could lead to crime? Some of the lights we own, some of the lights the city owns, and so that meant that we had to contact the city and say, hey, these lights are out. It's just worth it. It's worth it to be able to know all the things that are happening. And because we have a team, I, as the asset manager, I'm always working on the leases. We do a complete lease audit. That's where we take the rent roll of what they're telling us, who is living in that unit and how much they're paying, and we pull the physical file and we match it. We want to make sure that it shows the right people and it shows the right amount of rent. We do it for every one of them, 152. So, the bigger property you're buying, you know that you're going to, have to spend that time there. The other thing is I like to be there in the office so I can hear the on-site. I can hear her, how she answers the phone. I'm saying her because I've only dealt with female on-sites, but you can have a male on-site. But you want to hear how they answer the phone. How do they interact when residents come in? Are they like Chick-fil-A? How can I help you? It's a pleasure. Let me take care of what is your issue? We will get it resolved. Or are they like, what do you want? So it's really important to be there and to actually witness yourself what's happening and don't rely. Because if we'd have relied on the broker, we would have really been, it really would have messed up our CapEx. Now, we did raise a huge CapEx because we had things we wanted to do on that property, but the residents would have suffered because that $325,000 that we paid for the lift station would have come out of our CapEx, which means they probably wouldn't have gotten the playground. There are other things that we've done that there's a good chance that would not have happened. because we would have had to have used money that we did not earmark for the lift station. So, do you guys have any questions? I know I feel like we kind of dumped everything on you, but unmute yourselves, ask us any questions. We've got a little bit of time, and we definitely want to answer any questions you might have.
I have a one question about using AI.
Mhm.
I'm using ChatGPT and Cloud both. And sometimes I compare both, which is better. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure 100%. But for me, a lot of time ChatGPT is better to little organize, a little briefly. But is it, do you think, but I heard from many sponsors, they talk about cloud the more than ChatGPT. So
Yeah, I'll let Tyler answer that one. Go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, I probably use AI the most out of our group. I personally have found the capacity for Claude is much higher than ChatGPT. Your ChatGPT, you have like your chats and your projects that you can do, and Claude has something similar. It's called Chats and Coworks. But with Cowork, it specifically like stays on your computer. It stays in a bubble. So like if you go to chat, it's not going to reference your Cowork. So it allows you to build out individual projects. And even if you're doing projects in ChatGPT, sometimes it'll actually reference your old chats and things like that. But I know like if you're a super nerd, super tech, which I'm not, there's something called Claude Code where you can, I mean, I've been told that you can build your own app in like 10 minutes with Claude Code. Like it's very user friendly, easy to follow, and like it'll kind of work you through the process. I have not tried that, but I mean, for $20 a month for ChatGPT or Claude, we definitely went with Claude. Like it is far, far superior in our eyes.
Yeah, we actually canceled because we did have a subscription with ChatGPT, and so we canceled it and we just took everything to Claude. The other thing with Claude is we were able to have it do our voice. So basically, I'll let Tyler explain it because he did it. Go ahead, Tyler.
I was going to say, I built that out for you.
Yeah.
No, so I mean, you can also do this in ChatGPT. It's not necessarily a Claude feature, but Claude, you can do something called skills. You can build skills in there. So here, let me show you. Sorry, I had some proprietary stuff pulled up on my Claude, so I had to dump that first. Okay. So here is the skill category, right? So if you go into skills, these are the skills that I personally have built for my Claude. So I have investor reports, investor frequently asked questions, education, deal screening, rent comps, underwriting, and then Tyler's voice. So specifically what Cyndee's talking about is the voice skill. So anybody can build a skill. You can just go in, you can create it with Claude. Okay. So the prompt that I used to do this is I went into here and I said, create with Claude. And I said, we need to create a skill that is called Tyler's voice. And what I want Tyler's voice to be is I want it to be everything that Tyler would say, would do, the cadence that he uses, the hot words that he uses, the stuff that he says all the time, like, you know, the the broker works for the seller, stuff like that, right? And so I said, go and look at his LinkedIn profile, his Facebook, his Instagram, the YouTube channel, The Day in the Life of the Asset Manager. Go watch these videos, figure out who Tyler is, and build this skill, okay? And this is what it came back with. Now, it didn't come back with this, okay? It came back with something a little bit different. And so after I had it build the skill, I went through and read the skill, and I just opened up my little talk to Claude, and I said, I'm reading this skill and I need to change this, this, and this. That's incorrect. I need to add this, and kind of shifted a little bit of the skill around because it's not going to get it perfect the first time. But what this allows us to do is I gave this skill, because I can email this skill, to our VA that handles all of our marketing. And I said, hey, if you're going to post something on my Facebook, on my Instagram, on my LinkedIn, use my voice. Because this is something that I've built, that I'm comfortable with. I said, hey, write me a Facebook post. This is what about underwriting. That's all I gave it. And it gave me this LinkedIn post that I can post on my underwriting. And it sounded very similar to how I talk. Much, much better than how our VA sounds when he's trying to write a post for what I would sound like. And so skills are super powerful. I have this skill for deal screening and rent comps, and that's for my underwriting, right? Like when I get a deal, I download the T12, I download the OM, and I download the rent roll. I throw it in the Claude, and I say, I click on deal screening and rent comps in my skills. So I'll show you.
And then just
right here.
Can you touch on connectors for when you're done with that?
Yeah. So skills right here, I just click on rent comps, and then I go to skill and I click on deal screening. I put the OM, the rent roll, and I hit go. Done. And it's going to do everything that I have taught it how to do. Okay. But you're always going to want to check your work, because it doesn't matter how good an AI is, it still has flaws, just like a human, right? Like I have people check my work all the time. You should have people check your work all the time. So you need to check your AI's work. But if I go to like our deal screening here, this is something that I have spent a lot of time building out, right? So location, landlord friendly states, low to middle crime area, unit count 100 to 400. Price per unit, this is kind of around where we're looking at. Going in cap rate, this is kind of what we're looking at. But I also built in like contingencies that it's not going to automatically kick it out, but it'll flag it, right? And then when I go to rent comps, I built this rent comp that I was like, hey, you need to start with a 5-mile radius. You need 6 to 8 comps, vintage, plus or minus 5 years. A hard floor at 1970. I don't want you looking at 1960 properties when you're pulling rent comps. It has to go up from there. I don't want to go down.
Let's tell them why we don't want 1960.
Oh, yeah. So
just as a side note.
Story in a story. Here we go.
Yep.
You don't want 1960s or older, or we don't want 1960s or older. Your business plan could be different. Okay. I'm not going to put you in the same box with us. But we look at 1970s and newer, because in the 60s and older, you have a ton of huge regulatory issues. You have lead paint, you have asbestos, you have aluminum wiring, you have something called stab lock panels. I actually have those in the 70s sometimes too. It just depends, but they're a lot more common older vintages. And so you have to be much more diligent about your pre-work with 1960s and older, and you're more likely to have huge CapEx issues, like huge CapEx issues. So you need to budget like $100 extra $1,000 for plumbing, because you're going to have plumbing issues, stuff like that. So we don't look at 1969 and older. I even have it look at the class. If I'm looking at a class B, I want it to pull like C plus, B plus, somewhere in there. I don't want it to go grab me A comps, right? I want it to match size, because size is specific when you're pulling comps. If I go and look at a 6-unit duplex for my 250 unit apartment complex, it's gonna write very differently. And then I need it to look at the unit mix on those comps. Like these are just some, if you look at this skill, I'm showing you just some of what this skill does, okay? So I've spent time building these skills out, and that's something that Claude can give you that ChatGPT can't, is that skill building. So one thing to touch on is connectors. So in addition to Claude, something that it can do is you can go and connect it to different applications. So I have my Claude connected to my Fathom, which joins every meeting that I tell it to go join. I have it connected to my Gmail, my calendar, my Google Drive, and my Zoom. And then I have a PDF viewer in here for like going and looking at stuff. So what that means is if I tell it, hey, go search my email for this email. Okay, I don't know if you've tried to search your email in Apple, Google, Microsoft. It doesn't matter. They all tragically suck, right? You're like, I know the title. I know the subject line that I'm looking for, and it'll never find it. I connected this to my Claude. I can say, hey, I'm looking for every email that has to do with Oxford Point. Done. And it will go and find every single email that I have for Oxford Point for me. And not use the search function in Gmail because it's super broken. So you can connect a whole bunch of different stuff to this thing and build out those processes. I know Cyndee has Asana connected. So her and my brother Lorik work out of Asana. Every task that they do is in Asana. And one of the beauties of it is because they have Fathom connected, with Asana connected, with Claude connected. There's a lot of connected in there. But when they have a meeting and they get done with the meeting, they hit end, their Fathom goes and uploads it to the Claude. And Claude goes and grabs all the notes from that meeting and says, here are the tasks assigned to Lorik. Uploads it to Asana. Here are the tasks assigned to Cyndee. Uploads it to Asana. Done. You have an automated process from your meetings to be able to get tasks directly uploaded to Asana so that you can work out of your Asana and not have to try and remember what you promised people that you were going to do in your meeting. It's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, very awesome. Yeah. Sounds
Yeah.
so cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions that you guys might have?
Yes. So it was
It's
really
so nice to
interesting.
see you guys, by the way. I just have to
Yeah.
say, it's just so fun to like see you in person, and then we're back to squares. But at least we had a few
I know.
minutes in person.
It is cool. Thank you so much for the webinar. I feel like it's going to be a very useful journey with you guys. I've already gained so much knowledge in the last two webinars. My question would be, this broker that you're speaking about, did you have any prior relationship with them before this deal? And are you going to continue the relationship after this deal?
So it was not our broker. It was one of the other underwriters that got in touch with that broker. He kind of had a relationship with him. What's super funny about that whole thing is this broker, the entire time that we were on property, kept telling us how much he wanted to help us so that we would use him to sell it. And the whole time he was talking, it was like a Charlie Brown movie. He was just like, wah, 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 wah. Like I couldn't care less about what he was saying because no, honestly, it's to the point where even when I'm looking at deals in that area and I see his name listed as one of the brokers, I'm like, oh man, is it even worth it to try and talk to this fool? Like I would just call the next person on the list if I was actually like genuinely interested in that property. But yeah, that's the relationship that he has with me now is like, I almost won't even underwrite a property that he is like listed on because he damaged that relationship so much.
Yep. That's a true story.
Thanks.
We
Yeah.
we would never, well, I don't like to say the word never, but I can't imagine a situation in which we would actually hire him to sell a property for us.
Yes. Yeah. It would be dire straits, to be honest.
We know so many other brokers. So,
Yes.
like I said, I just can't imagine a situation that we would do that.
Yep. Zombie apocalypse. He's the only broker left.
Well, I'm very glad to hear, Catherine, that you are getting information from these webinars. We really try to make sure that it's worth your time, that you come away with action items, things that you can do that you can implement in your own. Our next one, we are going to talk about agendas and property management. I know we've talked about how to hire them, but we want to talk about how we work with them. And we are implementing AI in doing this. So in a month, we'll have it done. It takes a while because you saw like Tyler's skill. It takes a while to kind of build it out, but that's what we are building out is where we're taking our Monday morning reports that we get from the property and have it converted into our agenda instead of us having to actually create the agenda. We're trying to work with AI to do that. And then AI can also pick up some things that maybe we've missed. So, yeah, but
Can I
we'll keep working. And if there's ever a topic that you said, I need more information on this, just let us know. We're happy, to do it. If you want one just on AI in general, because I know Tyler kind of ran through like Claude and how we're using it, but we could talk about it more in depth. But this is for you. This is to help you in your business. And we want you to succeed. We want to support you in how you do it. So feel free to shoot us a text and just say, hey, can you work this into one of your webinars? Because, we do them once a month and we'll plan whatever's going to be beneficial to you because there's no point in us talking about stuff that's not going to help you. So
I will
help us
say,
help you.
yeah, I will say if you haven't worked a lot with AI or you're starting with a new AI, my recommendation, this is what I did with my dad, okay? And if you think my mom is technologically illiterate, my dad is, oh, he's a little bit better than her, but not much. Um, Talk to Claude or ChatGPT or Grok or whatever AI you want to use about something that you personally know and that you're really passionate about and you're very knowledgeable about because it's something that you fully understand and you can catch if AI is lying to you because you already know the answer. Okay. But the other thing is oftentimes AI doesn't lie to you. It just misreads what's happening. Right.
Ask better questions.
Yeah.
It teaches you how to ask better questions. So yeah, I know Lorik was landscaping his backyard, and that was kind of his introduction with it, is he, got Claude and just he already knew the answers because he was doing the landscaping, but he was asking it all these questions. And so for that reason, he knew if, Claude was in the right direction. Now, I am going to say I would not recommend Grok. And the reason that is they don't have guardrails. So, and what I mean by guardrails is, um,
Don't get us flagged on YouTube.
yeah,
Guardrails, like if you ask inappropriate things,
yes.
like self-harm is one thing that AI has a hard guardrail on. It needs to flag the authorities that you're talking about that Grok does not have any guardrails on it. Or I don't know. They might have put it in the last couple of weeks, but as a couple of weeks ago, they didn't have any. So,
We highly recommend Claude. And
yep.
that like the easiest way is just to start a conversation. And it has a voice where you can just, hold down the voice and you just literally talk to it like you would talk to your friend. Hey, I'm really thinking about landscaping my backyard. This is how big my backyard is. I want it to look like this. I want these, I want it to have a tropical look. What kind of plants would you recommend? And then remember at the end, always ask, are there any questions that I haven't asked you that I should ask you? Because then you're going to get that feedback. So,
Just make sure it's something that you're passionate about and that you're knowledgeable about
and you know
because
the answers. Yeah.
yeah, it'll make it a little bit easier because if you're like, hey, I want to talk to you about multifamily investing and I don't really know where to start, it'll help you through that process, but you're not sure if you're asking good questions because garbage in, garbage out is a real thing. But if you don't know that you're putting garbage in, then you don't know that you're getting garbage out. And so that's why it's important to kind of figure out the language that AI uses. I don't know if you've seen the videos. Like you can look up a YouTube video of like a time lapse, right? And it's like I uploaded the same exact photo 100 times to Claude or ChatGPT or whatever, and I said, do not change a single thing about this photo. From start to finish, it goes from like a beautiful landscape that was like a photo that someone took to like a Picasso meets Van Gogh Starry Night kind of thing where everything's melted and people have like 7 ears on one side of their face because AI does not see photos the way that we see it. So it's not going to translate that photo the same way that we translate it in our brains. And you have to remember that as you're putting information in. So that's why I said something that you're passionate about, something you know about, something that you know a lot of the answers to, start with that, and then you can kind of see how it progresses and where the hiccups are and how it's doing that, and ask it like, hey man, why did you get this answer when I asked you this? That makes no sense. And it'll tell you like, oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was X, Y, and Z or something like that, and it'll tell you what's going on. And then you can correct that behavior of why it was thinking that way and move forward. So
I
that's
would definitely create your voice in a skill.
it's very interesting to read that.
Oh, it was hilarious. It said Tyler was my favorite child,
Yep,
and he was the delightful one.
accurate.
But I think it's because we do this together, where Lorik and I don't do anything, we don't do any webinars together. So Claude knows I have Lorik as a son, but he's in operations. So anyway, it was quite funny. But we do.
Tyler, I'm sorry. I
Yep.
I don't want to forget. Did you say in the beginning what baby is?
Oh, yeah, I did not. Okay.
Okay.
So again, baby is not cooperating, but she said, I feel comfortable enough to tell you you would be able to go and tell people that it's a girl. So that's where we're at.
Mama was right.
Oh. Well, congratulations. That's awesome.
Yep, I forgot I told you I was going to tell you that. Yeah, that's where we're at right now. So we'll see what happens. But she was like, we're going to check we have one more a month from now, and then we start every 2 weeks on the baby appointments. So she was like, we're going to do an ultrasound every single time, and if we have an oopsie poopsie and it pops up, then we'll know. But for right now, it definitely looks like a girl. So
All right. That's awesome.
I'm
yep,
so glad you asked, Catherine. Thank you. All right. Well, you guys, I hope you enjoyed today. I know we kind of did the gamut of conversation. And those of you that joined in a little bit late, go to our website and watch it from the beginning because we did talk a lot about negotiating and why it was so important. And 1 year in, we finally finished a project that we started. So thank you so much. We'll see you guys in 1 month.
see
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.